Somewhere on the internet, right now, there is a story about a man named Oliver Cowan. It says that on August 16, 1934, he was grading fresh concrete at Hoover Dam in a 42-ton Caterpillar D8 bulldozer when the crust broke underneath him. It says he jumped clear. It says the machine went down nose first into the gray slurry and never came back up, and that it is sitting inside the foundation of that dam right now. A channel with roughly 10,000 subscribers uploaded that story. 308,000 people watched it. Oliver Cowan never drove a bulldozer at Hoover Dam. Not once, not for a minute. He was a high scaler. He hung off the wall of Black Canyon on a manila rope with a bosun's chair under him and a 30-pound jackhammer in his hands, 700 feet above the Colorado River, knocking loose rock off a cliff face so nobody underneath would get killed by it. The men on the ropes called him Loudspeaker. He was about 22 years old, and he had come down from the Spokane country in Washington. And on November 21, 1932, 25 feet above him, an engineer went head first off that wall. What Oliver Cowan did in the next 3 seconds put his name in the Las Vegas newspaper and made the citizens of that town petition for a medal on his behalf. Somebody decided that story was not good enough. Here is what makes it worse. While they were inventing a machine to bury in that concrete, there was already something buried in it. Something 582 miles long, sealed in there since 1935, and it has never come out. We will get to it, and once you know what it is, you will not be able to look at that dam the same way. We are Machinery Vault, and we checked. The engineer's name was Burl R. Rutledge. The Las Vegas Review-Journal, on the day it happened, called him a high-scaling inspector for 6 companies. He was working near Lookout Point on the canyon rim where a valve house was being painted. His hand had been hurt earlier, and it was not gripping the way a hand needs to grip when a man is standing on the edge of a 700-foot drop. It let go. Rutledge went over head first, not feet first, where a man has some chance of catching something. Head first, upside down, falling past a rock wall with nothing on it to grab. Cowan was hanging below him on his rope. He saw the shape come down at him out of the sky, and he swung himself out into open air and got a hand on Rutledge's leg as the man went past. One leg, in midair. Over 700 feet of nothing. The rope swung, and both men swung with it. Then Arnold Parks, the scaling boss, came across the face on his own line and pinned Rutledge flat against the rock so he could not tear loose. The two of them held that man there, hanging, while somebody up top ran a line down. Rutledge came back over the rim unhurt. He gave a statement afterward that has been sitting in the Bureau of Reclamation's newspaper archive ever since. He said he was not scared at all while he was falling. It was after he got back on top, looking down at those rocks so far below him, that the fear finally found him. That is a real man describing a real morning in a real newspaper in 1932. If any of this is landing with you, tap the like button. And if you are watching this on your television, press down on your remote and the subscribe button comes up on the screen. That is all it takes. We will wait right here. Now let us deal with the machine that supposedly sank. The Caterpillar D8 did not exist in August of 1934. It went into production the following year as the RD8, the 5E series, and Caterpillar built exactly 35 of them at the plant in Peoria, Illinois, before switching to the RD81H with the D13000 diesel engine. The letter R did not come off the name until the middle of 1937. So on the afternoon that story describes, there was no D8 anywhere in the world. There was not even an RD8. There were engineering drawings in Illinois, and a bare RD8 weighed somewhere around 15 to 16.5 tons, roughly 33,000 pounds, not 42 tons. Whoever wrote that number took the operating weight of a modern D8, a machine with 60 more years of engineering in it, and stapled it onto a tractor from the Depression. The same script says the machine's rubber tracks would decompose inside the concrete. The RD8 rolled on 20-inch steel tracks. There has never been a rubber track on a machine that size from that era, and every man watching this who has ever crawled under a dozer to change a pad already knows it. Here is what was actually working in Black Canyon. Caterpillar's own corporate archive says it plainly. 12 Model 60 track-type tractors were on that job. Gasoline engines, not diesel. They worked the diversion tunnels, they hauled overburden, and they dragged the huge sections of penstock pipe down toward the river. 12 of them, photographed and cataloged, and sitting in the company's own historical record for anyone who cares to look. So the story has the wrong machine, the wrong weight, the wrong tracks, and the wrong year. But the part that should bother you most is not the spec sheet. It is the concrete. Because if you understand how Hoover Dam was poured, you understand that nothing could sink into it. Not a bulldozer, not a wheelbarrow, and not a man. The engineers at the Bureau of Reclamation had a problem nobody had solved before. Concrete gives off heat as it cures. Pour 3.25 million cubic yards of it into a canyon as one continuous mass, and the heat has nowhere to go. Their calculations said it would take 125 years for that concrete to cool to the temperature of the air around it. And while it cooled, it would shrink, and while it shrank, it would tear itself apart from the inside. So they did not pour a dam. They poured a stack of columns. Each column was a rectangular block, some as small as 25 feet square, the largest around 25 by 60 feet. Each block went up in a 5-foot lift, and no more, and no faster than 5 feet in 72 hours. The concrete came out over the canyon on overhead cableways in bottom dump buckets, holding 4 and 8 cubic yards apiece. At peak, one bucket landed every 78 seconds. The men running those cableways were the highest paid workmen on the project at $1.25 an hour, because a bucket in the wrong place would kill somebody. And when a bucket dumped, 7 men called puddlers went into the form. They pushed the concrete into the corners with shovels and with their own rubber boots, and they ran pneumatic vibrators down into it, so there would not be a single air pocket anywhere in that block. Now do the arithmetic. The fake video never did. 8 cubic yards of concrete dropped into a block that size raises the level of the pour 2 inches. 6 at the very most. 7 men are standing in that form, watching it happen with shovels in their hands. A 33,000-pound crawler tractor cannot sink out of sight into 2 inches of wet concrete. You could not lose a hard hat in there without one of those 7 men fishing it out before the next bucket came down. Which is exactly why the Bureau of Reclamation has said, for decades and in writing, that no body is buried in Hoover Dam either. 96 men were killed building it. The Bureau will tell you every one of their names, and it will tell you that not one of them is in the concrete. That legend probably drifted west from Montana. At Fort Peck Dam, in September of 1938, a section of the embankment slid into the reservoir, and 8 men went with it. 2 were recovered. 6 of them are still in there today. That is a true story, and a hard one. And somewhere along the way, people started telling it about the more famous dam instead. So nothing is buried in Hoover Dam. Except that is not quite true. And this is the part almost nobody knows. Run your hand along the downstream face of that dam, and you are within a few feet of 582 miles of steel pipe. 1 inch in diameter, thin-walled, laid in coils inside every single form before the concrete went in. First, they ran cold river water through it. Then they built an ammonia refrigeration plant down on the lower cofferdam that could freeze 1,000 tons of ice a day. And they pumped that chilled water through the coils until each block had given up its heat. And when a block was cool, they did not pull the pipe out. They cut it off flush, and they took pneumatic grout guns and forced grout into what was left at 300 pounds per square inch until it was solid. 582 miles. That is the driving distance from Las Vegas to Denver, coiled inside a wall of concrete in Black Canyon. It has been sealed in there since 1935, and it is never coming out. That is what is buried in Hoover Dam. Not a bulldozer. A cooling system the size of a Rocky Mountain road trip, still holding the whole thing together. Which brings us to the receipt the fake video invented. It claims that in 1948 the Bureau ran a comprehensive structural survey, drilled cores through the buried bulldozer, and logged core 47A as showing an embedded ferrous inclusion with no structural impact. It even tells you the phrase sits in a maintenance log in an archive somewhere. There is no core 47A. There is no 1948 survey. The whole thing was invented to sound like paperwork, because paperwork is what makes a lie sound checked. Here is what actually happened, and it is better. In 1995, the Bureau of Reclamation's Materials Engineering and Research Laboratory drilled real cores out of Hoover Dam and tested them. A research civil engineer named Timothy Dolan published the results. Back in the 30s, the 28-day compressive strength of that concrete tested out around 3,500 pounds per square inch. 60 years later, those cores came back at an average of 7,230. The dam is not hiding a flaw. The dam has been quietly getting stronger every year for 90 years in the dark. If that number surprised you, leave a comment and tell us where you are watching from. And if you have ever set foot on that dam, we want to know that too. The machines that built the place had a quieter ending. When 6 companies finished, the equipment was declared surplus. 66 side dump rail cars had hauled spoil out of that canyon on 19 miles of private railroad, and 40 of them were sold off to the Western Pacific Railroad. One of those cars is sitting today at a railroad museum in Portola, California, wearing the number 11,012. Except for one thing. Strung across Black Canyon, anchored into the rock on both rims, there is a cableway rated at 150 tons. Lidgerwood built it. It cost $172,000 in 1930s money. When they load tested it, they hung 187 tons off it, and it held. The 5 temporary cableways that carried the concrete buckets came down when the powerhouse was finished in 1936. The big one stayed. The Bureau of Reclamation still uses it when there is something too heavy for anything else. 90 years old, hanging over the same canyon, still working. Nobody makes a video about that. They would rather invent a bulldozer. And to make the invention feel real, they went into a Bureau of Reclamation archive and took the name of a 22-year-old kid from Spokane who once caught a falling man by the leg over a 700-foot drop, and they sat him in the seat of a machine that would not be built for another year. Whether Las Vegas ever got Oliver Cowan his medal, we could not confirm. The clipping tells us the town asked. It does not tell us the answer. That is where the paper trail goes cold, and we are not going to invent the rest of it. That is the whole difference. There are men in this comment section whose fathers ran these machines. You know what a 5-foot lift looks like. You know a dozer does not float. The top comment on that fake video, the one with more likes than any other, is a man pointing out that the first D8 was not produced until 1935. He was right. He was right 5 months ago, and nobody listened. Now you know what is actually inside that dam, and who Oliver Cowan actually was. Subscribe, and we will keep opening the file. If you are on your television, press down on the remote, and the button is right there. Next, we went looking for 89 Caterpillar bulldozers that the internet swears were abandoned in the Nevada desert when this job ended. That video is on your screen now.